All right, everyone, we're going to start here with section 4, talking about China. Make sure you have your electronic notes ready to fill in as you're listening to the video and looking at the slides. Remember, we've already talked about China, so most of this is going to be a review with just a little bit more detail. All right, so when you think about China, remember that the Huanghe River is going to be one of the most important geographical features that we talk about. It's geographically isolated. You can take a look at the map in just a moment when we go to the next slide. Invaders from the north, keep that in mind as well as you're thinking about the geography. And the Great Wall, which a lot of you are familiar with, was actually built for protection. So we'll get into that a little bit later today. Chinese forms of Buddhism spread throughout Asia. Remember, just the other day we were talking about how Buddhism spreads from India to China and then goes to Southeast Asia. So we're going to get into that a little bit today as well. All right, when we take a look at the map here, notice where the Huanghe River is. Remember, also known as the Yellow River when you're thinking about that, towards the top. And you're going to see a lot of different colors shading here: the Shang Dynasty, Zhao Dynasty, and Qin Dynasty, as well as the Han Dynasty. Make sure you're paying attention to your color coordination. Also pay attention to your time frames with those color keys. You can see how territory changes over time. You'll have the Great Wall in there, and you see the Silk Route, which we've talked about quite a bit as well.
And so we're picking up in the Zhao Dynasty with Confucianism. And when we left off in the Zhao Dynasty, we were talking about how you had this time of warring states and chaos. So we're picking up at that point with Confucius, who was born in 551 BC. He was born to a really poor family. And as an adult, he was a teacher. But what he really wanted was to find harmony. And so he ends up creating an ethical system called Confucianism. Confucianism is not actually technically a religion. It's considered an ethical system based on the principles of right and wrong. And it really ends up becoming important because it is going to end up being what really sets up the government of China throughout these next several dynasties that we're going to talk about. One of the big things that Confucius is going to teach about is these 5 basic relationships. And so you can see them listed out here. You can also see them listed out with who's considered the more important person versus who's considered the less important person, or the superior and the inferior. And all of these relationships that Confucius talks about, he says that there's someone that is just by nature the superior person in all of these different relationships except friend to friend, because there's no person friend to friend that's seen as necessarily more important than the other friend. But the ruler to the subject, the father to the son, the husband to the wife, the older brother to the younger brother, or the friend to the friend. And you can fill yourself into these things. You can even look at it as the older sister to the younger sister. So just filling yourself into these relationships.